You are standing in an optical store, under lighting designed to make everything look expensive. Glass cases line the wall. You pick up a pair of Ray-Ban Wayfarers, turn them over in your hands. Check the price tag. $249. You wince a little, but you tell yourself the same thing your parents told themselves. They're Ray-Bans. That's just what good sunglasses cost. You are wrong. Those frames cost somewhere between $5 and $8 to manufacture. The plastic, the hinges, the lenses, the little logo stamped on the arm, all of it, combined, costs less than a sandwich. And the reason you are paying $249 for an $8 object has nothing to do with quality or craftsmanship. It has to do with the fact that one company controls almost the entire eyewear industry on Earth. It makes the glasses. It owns the stores that sell them. It runs the insurance plan that reimburses you for them. It even owns the brands you think are competing with each other on that shelf. It has been doing this in plain sight for 60 years, while more than 4 billion people who need corrective lenses have quietly paid whatever price was put in front of them. That company is called Essilor Luxottica, and right now, a city in eastern China that almost nobody outside the optical trade has ever heard of is quietly taking it apart, lens by lens, $3 at a time. If you've ever wondered why a pair of glasses costs more than a plane ticket, stick around, because by the end of this, you'll never look at an eyewear store the same way again. The story starts with an orphan in Milan. Leonardo del Vecchio was born in 1935 into a family that could not support him. His father died before he had the chance to know him, and his mother, raising 5 children alone with no money, placed him in an orphanage. He grew up there, without adoption, without inheritance, without connections. At 14, he was apprenticed to a tool and die shop, the kind of place where boys learn to cut and press metal into molds. It was not glamorous work, but it taught him precision, and it taught him how components were built from nothing. In 1961, at 26, Del Vecchio opened a small workshop in Agordo, a town tucked into the Italian Dolomites with more mountains than people. He wasn't making glasses. He was making parts for glasses, hinges, temples, nose pads, and selling them to other eyewear manufacturers. It was a supplier's business, quiet and unglamorous, run by a craftsman who understood something most people in the room never bothered to think about. The margins on eyewear components were extraordinary. Over the next decade, he moved from parts to complete frames, from frames made for others to frames sold under his own name, and from his own brand to buying up everyone else's. He called the company Luxottica, and he built it with the discipline of a man who had grown up with nothing and never wanted to feel powerless again. What happened next is one of the most patient corporate takeovers in modern business history, and it worked precisely because nobody was watching closely enough to stop it. In 1990, Del Vecchio listed Luxottica on the New York Stock Exchange rather than in Milan. He told a reporter at the time that if you have to set sail, you might as well choose the ocean. America was the largest eyewear market on the planet, and he wanted access to American capital to fund what came next, a buying spree. He bought Vogue Eyewear that same year. In 1995, he acquired LensCrafters through a hostile takeover of its parent company, U.S. Shoe Corporation, a business roughly 5 times the size of Luxottica at the time. A small Italian frame maker had just swallowed an American retail giant to get its hands on hundreds of optical stores. In 1999, he bought Ray-Ban for $640 million. In 2001, he bought Sunglass Hut, adding thousands more storefronts to a network that now stretched across the globe. Before Luxottica bought Ray-Ban, a pair of Wayfarers sold for around $30. You could pick them up at a gas station. Del Vecchio pulled them out of gas stations and drugstores entirely, repositioned them as a premium fashion object, and put them exclusively in the stores he now owned. Within a few years, the same glasses were selling for over $150. Today, they run past $200. Nothing about the product changed. The frame is the same frame. The only thing that changed was who controlled the shelf, and what they decided to charge for standing on it. But if you want to understand exactly how the machine worked, the story that matters most is Oakley. By the early 2000s, Oakley was one of the most respected performance eyewear brands in the world. Built from a garage in 1975 by a founder named Jim Gennard, who started out selling motorcycle grips. Oakley was independent. It was not a Luxottica brand, and its products sold extremely well inside Sunglass Hut, a store Luxottica owned. Then, a pricing dispute broke out between the two companies. Oakley wouldn't lower its wholesale prices to the terms Luxottica demanded. Luxottica's response was immediate. It pulled every Oakley product from every store it controlled. Sunglass Hut, LensCrafters, Pearl Vision, all of it, overnight. Oakley's stock collapsed by roughly a third. A company that had done nothing wrong, whose products hadn't changed, and whose customers still wanted them, watched its market value evaporate because one company controlled the shelf space and chose to take it away. Then, in 2007, with Oakley's stock still depressed and its leverage gone, Luxottica bought the company outright for $2.1 billion. The retailer that had starved the brand was now its owner. Once the deal closed, Oakley products went right back on the shelves, at higher prices than before. The message to every other eyewear brand on earth was unmistakable. Challenge us on pricing, and we will cut you off from your own customers, watch you collapse, and then buy you at a discount. Nobody tried again. From there, Luxottica built a licensing empire on top of its owned brands. Prada, Chanel, Versace, Armani, Burberry, Michael Kors, Tiffany, Coach, one fashion house after another signed deals that worked the same way every time. The fashion label lent its name. Luxottica designed the frame, manufactured it, distributed it, and sold it through its own stores. The fashion house collected a royalty. The customer paid $350 for a frame that rolled off the same production line as an $80 pair sitting 2 shelves over. The only difference was the engraving on the temple. In 2018, Luxottica merged with Essilor, the world's largest lens manufacturer, forming Essilor Luxottica. Now the company controlled the frames and the lenses. It controlled manufacturing, retail, and design. And through its stake in vision insurance providers, it controlled a piece of something most people never think to question. When your insurance plan tells you it covers frames up to a certain amount at a participating retailer, in a meaningful number of cases, the insurer steering you, the store selling to you, and the manufacturer that built the product are connected to the same corporate parent. Imagine that structure in almost any other industry, and it would be treated as a scandal. In eyewear, most people simply assumed that was the price of seeing clearly. By the time Del Vecchio died of pneumonia in 2022, at the age of 87, he had become one of the wealthiest men in Italy. The company he built now generates north of 27 billion euros a year and commands a market valuation that has pushed well past $100 billion. The machine kept running without him. If you're finding this as infuriating as I did researching it, go ahead and hit like now. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who've never questioned why their glasses cost what they cost. Now let's talk about the city that's finally cracking this open. 2 hours west of Shanghai by high-speed rail sits a small city in Jiangsu province called Danyang. Its population is under 1 million people. It has no skyline, no tourist trail, nothing that would make you look twice on a map. But Danyang has a nickname inside the optical trade, the glasses capital of the world. And the numbers behind that nickname are almost impossible to process the first time you hear them. Danyang produces more than 400 million spectacle lenses every single year, roughly half of every corrective lens made on the planet, out of one city smaller than most American suburbs. It's also responsible for a large share of China's frame output, is home to more than 1,600 eyewear-related companies, and employs upward of 50,000 people in the trade. Its eyewear exports pushed past $660 million in a single recent year, still climbing even through a global pandemic. The origin story is almost poetic in how differently it started from Del Vecchio's. In the 1960s, groups of young, technically trained workers from optical factories in Shanghai and Suzhou were relocated to the countryside during a period of political upheaval in China. They arrived in Danyang with nothing but the skill of grinding lenses by hand, and they taught it to their neighbors, who taught it to their families. What started as scattered cottage workshops became, over decades, an entire industrial ecosystem. One the local government began investing in seriously through the 1990s and 2000s, bringing in better equipment, partnering with universities, and pushing local manufacturers to close the quality gap with Japan and Germany. They closed it. Danyang factories today apply the same multi-layer anti-reflective coatings, the same blue light filtering, the same UV protection and precision grinding that premium Western brands advertise as signature features. In 2014, a local firm broke a long-standing foreign monopoly by building China's first domestically manufactured lens coating machine. Independent testing has repeatedly found that lenses coming out of Danyang meet or exceed the optical specifications of products priced 10 to 20 times higher. The gap that used to separate a cheap lens from an expensive one has narrowed to the point where most opticians can't tell the difference without checking the box. And here is the detail that makes this whole story land. Some of the exact same factories in Danyang that supply budget domestic Chinese brands also supply lenses that end up inside frames sold under recognizable Western names in Western stores. Different packaging, different markup, same production line. Two companies figured out how to route around the wall Del Vecchio built, and they did it from opposite directions. Zenni Optical launched in 2003 on a simple premise: buy lenses and frames directly from Chinese manufacturers, skip the retail rent, skip the licensing fees, skip the layer of markup sitting between the factory and your face, and sell straight to the consumer online. A complete pair of prescription glasses on Zenni can start under $7. The most expensive frames on the site rarely cross $50. Zenni has now sold more than 50 million pairs of glasses. Not a niche experiment. A mass-market operation built entirely on the fact that a factory in Danyang can produce the same optical product for a fraction of the price and ship it directly to the person wearing it. Warby Parker approached the same problem from the American consumer side. Its founder has told the story publicly more times than he can probably count. He lost his glasses on a trip, got quoted $700 for a replacement, and found it absurd that the smartphone in his pocket, containing a processor, a camera, and a cellular radio, cost less than 2 pieces of bent plastic and glass. He launched Warby Parker in 2010 at $95 a pair. The company grew to over 200 stores and went public in 2021 at a valuation north of $6 billion. Warby Parker didn't end Essilor Luxottica's dominance, but it proved the thing the incumbent never wanted proven: that consumers switch the moment somebody offers them a credible alternative at a price that doesn't feel like being taken advantage of. Here's the part that's genuinely hard to accept once you know it. You could walk into a sunglass hut and pay $249 for a pair of Ray-Bans, then go home and order a pair from Zenni for $22, and there's a real chance the lenses in both boxes were ground in the same Chinese industrial park, on production lines run by the same workers using the same machines. The factory doesn't care whose logo ends up on the temple. Its margin barely changes whether the lens lands inside a $300 frame or a $15 one. The only thing that changes downstream is what the customer at the very end is asked to pay. You were never paying for a better lens. You were paying for a logo, a showroom with flattering lighting, and a monopoly that had been raising prices for 6 decades because nobody had built an alternative pipeline strong enough to challenge it. That pipeline exists now, and it's shifting the math in real time. Online eyewear sales have grown at double-digit rates globally for 5 straight years. In the United States, the share of prescription glasses bought online climbed from under 3% in 2015 to over 15% in 2025, And it's higher still among younger buyers who never internalize the idea that glasses are supposed to be expensive. Every percentage point that migrates online is a percentage point that bypasses Essilor Luxottica's retail network entirely. To be clear, this empire is not collapsing tomorrow. A company generating tens of billions of euros a year and commanding a valuation in the hundreds of billions doesn't disappear because a manufacturing city in Jiangsu started selling direct. But the pattern here is the same one that's played out in every industry a legacy monopoly has faced, once cheap manufacturing met the internet at the same time. The music labels thought piracy was a phase. Taxi companies thought ride-sharing apps were a gimmick. Bookstores thought online retail was a novelty that would stay in the margins. It never stays in the margins. It eats the center. More than 4 billion people on this planet need corrective lenses. For 60 years, a meaningful share of them paid whatever price a single vertically integrated company decided to set, without ever realizing there was only one company setting it. An orphan from Milan built that machine so completely that most people never even noticed they were living inside it. Now a city most of the world still can't find on a map is manufacturing the exact same product at the exact same quality for a fraction of the price, and shipping it straight to anyone willing to ask the question the empire never wanted asked. Why does this cost so much? Once you know the answer, you can't unknow it. It cost that much because one company decided it should, and for 6 decades, nobody built the alternative fast enough to stop them. Now somebody has. So picture that optical store one more time. The warm lighting, the glass case, the Wayfarers sitting there at $249. The person behind the counter telling you they're a classic worth the investment. You now know the frame cost about $5 to make. You know one company owns the brand, the store, the lens, and quite possibly the insurance plan that's telling you what you owe. And you know a city of under 1 million people in eastern China is quietly producing half the lenses on the planet and will sell you the same thing for the price of a coffee. You can put the Wayfarers back on the shelf, or you can buy them anyway because you like the way they look and you can afford it. Either way, you're not making that decision in the dark anymore. If this changed how you think about something sitting on your face right now, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is exactly the kind of hidden monopoly story we dig into every week. And I want to know, did you have any idea one company owned this much of what you see through? Drop it in the comments. I read every one.